Welcome to the Purple Pod. This is the podcast where two fans of his royal purpleness, Prince, get together and talk about one of his albums. And that's pretty much it. Today, I'm joined by Kayum. Kayum, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Very good.
Good.
Pleased that I'm talking about this album. I don't think we mentioned which one it is yet.
I've not. So that's the
really
first thing. So we're gonna talk about Sign of the Times, which is a great. Why this album in particular?
So as I said, when you kind of messaged and said you want to talk about album, the first album that came to mind was Sign of the Times, and for me, that's the album that kind of I knew of Prince before that. I was young. You know, I've got two older siblings and they were listening to music, and it was inevitable with Purple Rain coming out, you're going to hear Prince. But for me, this album was the first album I actually physically went and bought. Right. I didn't buy it in real time. You know how I was probably a bit too young to buy it when it came out. I'm 87, I would have been 10.
Right.
So, so a little bit young, but obviously I saved up, and I think it was by the early 90s, I had a friend who was listening to, or who I went to see, who was a bit older than me, and they were listening to Prince. They had like Love Sexy, they had the Batman album, they had like the Little Red Corvette single, the dance mix and all this. So I started to listen to Prince. I was like, even though I knew him, it just got more and more into it, and I kind of said, I'm going to save a bit of money, I'm going to buy myself a Prince album. So I went and bought Sign of the Times. I bought it on cassette. The reason why I bought it on cassette was because, one, it was cheaper than the vinyl at the time, and I thought, yes. And to be truthful, I don't know why. I mean, I think back now, I'm not sure why I went for that album. I think it's one or two things. And firstly, the just seeing it there was something about that cover, which just I found interesting. The whole blurred out kind of, out of focus image. But I think maybe the other thing might have been he had the most tracks on there. So, do you know what I mean? So I'm getting my money's worth here. So, that album, listening to it, that was it. It just changed everything. You know what it is nowadays? People just get music and it's a bit throwaway. And like I said, I've gone out, I've spent my money, and that stayed in my cassette player for weeks, months.
Yeah.
You know, it was on rotation. You turn it over, you play it, and to me, and after that, obviously, I've gone back and I started to buy the older stuff, and then as he released stuff, I've been buying since. For me, that album's always been the one that I find that people might think, me saying this might be wrong, but I think it's the one for me that's like a perfect album from end to end.
Yeah,
some people disagree when I speak to them, but
no,
for me, it's the one that I've always found to kind of like from one end to the other.
It's the album, isn't it? That like Rolling Stones or Q Magazine, or they're always. That's the one that they say. In fact, I was reading a thing the other day that said it was kind of the beginning of the end for Prince, that he never got close to it again. And whilst the descent was slow, and I think I would disagree in aspects of that, but he never got close to that again. And he just kind of went down and down, which, like I say, I don't particularly agree with. That was his 9th studio album.
Yeah.
And by the time he passed, he put out 40 studio albums. So to say his 9th was his best, and that everything else, I don't know. I'm not convinced by it. So a couple of quick facts for those that don't know. It was released March the 30th, 1987. It was a double album, as we've said. It was recorded during 86, 87 in sessions that Prince originally wanted to do a triple album called Crystal Ball. It was also some of the songs were going to be labelled for an album called Dream Factory that was all going to be with the artist Camille, which was effectively Prince pitched a little bit higher. It was Warner Brothers that convinced him to trim it down to 2 albums and put it out. And as we say, not his most commercially successful album, but it's the one that kind of fans know, and it's the one that other people in the music business seem to really know as well. You mentioned the cover photo,
Yes.
which I love. I think is
Yeah.
brilliant, and like you say, him being out of focus and kind of quite close, almost walking off the set. So the set was kind of stuff from Paisley Park, but it was also so it had like neon signs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was the musical Guys and Dolls.
That's right. Yeah.
It was their set, which I was like, that's incredible.
I think the story is that it was last minute, wasn't it? That he kind of got someone to go and get the backdrop, and it was like, okay, and that's the bit that you kind of drawn to when you look at that whole front cover. And I think it was a last minute thing, but yeah, it was Guys and Dolls. So you got all that thing going on in the background. It is from that, yeah.
It is amazing, and this was his first album. So this was a Prince album, as in everything played by him, everything composed by him. Although, as we say, there's some kind of there's a bit of debate about a couple of the tracks, but this was the first one post Revolution. He'd broken the Revolution up, after Parade, really, and this was the first. But again, even though that had happened, the Revolution was still involved. I think, the Revolution certainly played on one of the tracks, and I know Wendy and Lisa were on, a couple of the songs as well.
For a few of them, they were. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll start at the top. So what we'll do is we'll go through it kind of track by track, and it's just memories and thoughts, sure. And Yeah. I mean, this title track, and this is the thing as well, being incredibly pedantic about it. If you're going into a record shop or if you're searching, it's not called Sign of the Times. What you're thinking of there is a Harry Styles record, or here's one for the kids, the Bell Stars record. Right. This is called Sign O' the Times. Sign of the Times. The title track is this incredible, almost kind of sparse, kind of political statement, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, I think it was a bold move to start off something like that, and I think there was a message there that you kind of got. It was very clear what he was trying to say just through the lyrics. As soon as you play that first track and you just hear, like you said, it's quite sparse. I'm assuming it's the Linn drum that he's used, and you just hear those beats. That's it. I mean, obviously, if you've never heard it before, you hear it, but once you've heard that, you'll always know that Sign of the Times, and it's that opening, that sound. But the lyrics are so powerful, and when you start really looking into what he's saying in those lyrics, that's what really kind of gets you, and you think, wow, as a first track, it's quite powerful.
Yeah, yeah. Because at the time when I listened, I didn't know what reefer was. I didn't know what horse was.
Yeah.
So when I was listening, I was just like, these are just words, Yeah. So I understood. Okay, I think these are both drug terms, and horse is stronger than reefer. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was again, clearly he was talking about AIDS. He was talking about gun violence. He was talking about kind of poverty in America with this idea of, millions, billions spent on putting people in space, but
that's right.
There's families that can't feed the kids here. What's going on? So it was.
Can I ask when did you get the album? How did you get hold of it?
I came to Prince about Love Sexy time.
Okay.
So
88.
Yeah. And in fact, it actually started with. I mean, I'll talk about this in another episode, but for people in Britain, there was a thing called Britannia Music Club that you could sign up.
Say
to.
that. Because we used to, from a school, we used to have Britannia music
Yeah.
stuff. I got my friends buying the cassettes from that as well.
So I always went with the vinyl, and I got the Batman soundtrack.
Okay.
I got the Batman album, and
Right.
listened to it. And again, like you, I knew Prince, I knew Purple Rain,
Sure.
and stuff like that. But I heard this Batman album, and I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute! This is a bit. I like this."
Yeah.
And then I just so from that Batman one, it was like, right, let's get everything. And I think the Love Sexy tour was going on at the time, so that's why I got the Love Sexy album, and then I probably got Sign of the Times about the same time. So I would have said late 80s, early 90s, and I at the time I would listen to one album just over and over and over and over and over and over again until I knew it. I absolutely knew it. And Sign of the Times was one of those. There was, and I had a couple of mates, Carl and Darren, who were Prince fans, and we would just drive around and listen to these songs. So that was my introduction. So yeah, I would have been probably about kind of late teens, 17, 18, 19, when I was listening to it. But I'd come very musical family. You know, we were always kind of listening to music. And I'll be honest, I remember hearing Sign of the Times, the first track, and thinking, I loved his voice.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
It took a couple of listens before I was like, oh, okay. All right. I get it now. And then, of course, Sign of the Times finishes and it goes into Play in the Sunshine.
Yeah.
And
change your mood, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, and I think it was Play in the Sunshine that sold the album to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a party song. There's no kind of getting away from that. It is, this is him doing. You can imagine it as a live song.
Yeah.
You were thinking, when he plays this live, this is going to absolutely, go off the scale. I mean, again, for you coming off the back of that, it must have been a bit of a, oh, wait a minute, hello, where are we going now?
I think it was just a complete change in tone in terms of the message. Yeah, it's a strange one because I was, like you just said, it sounds like such a happy song and such a upbeat kind of sound. Moving on from the opening song, which is Sign of the Times. But when I've spoken to people, a lot of people try to kind of compare it to 1999. So they kind of say it's got a message there. It's that whole thing, the whole apocalypse is coming and playing the sunshine before this whole thing's happened. So I've never saw it like that. But obviously, when you speak to some people, they look into it in different ways. I just found it to be a really happy song, and it just had, it just changed the whole scene in terms of listening to that album.
Yeah.
And I think from then on, it just gets brighter, doesn't it? In many ways.
It's really, yeah. Because I remember playing it for a friend of mine. I think it might have been on in the car, and I was listening to the album, and they were like, "Oh, I didn't know Prince was a Frank Zappa fan."
Okay. Yes.
And apparently, Playing the Sunshine is really sound as a real influence. I don't know Zappa that well, little bits, but yeah, apparently Prince had talked about, Zappa being a great musician. Frank Zappa had been similarly complimentary about Prince as a musician, and I only read that kind of looking up about for this episode. But I think I'm going to have to go back and listen to some Zappa then. Clearly, I've been missing out.
Yeah. There's probably, I think that was the thing with Prince. He always took some sort of influence or bits of other artists, but he kind of made it his own, even by doing that. And it always ended up sounding like a Prince record. So you'll always compare, but you'll always say, for me, it's always going to be Prince, isn't it? I think that what was nice about that record is that you got all these sounds going on, but then he's still got time to play his guitar in there, and he plays it again. When you hear that, and you're hearing him, put one of my friends, a musician, and he always said to me, and this is going back not so much to just playing the Sunshine, but also to the opening track where every so often he's got a few guitar licks that he puts in.
Yeah.
And one of the things he always said to me was, a true musician is one who holds back from playing. And sometimes it's just those few little riffs that they play that make that record. And that's what Prince obviously, we all know he could play, but he knew how to play when it needed to be played, if that makes sense. And I think that was kind of the nicer things for that opening of those two tracks, where he kind of put his guitar in as it should be put in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we move on to the third song, which again is a change. These three songs, none of them. And I think this kind of goes back to what you were saying of it's almost that kind of perfect album.
Yeah.
Is at no point do you think, okay, well, this sounds like the other one, the other one earlier on in the album. So he does one, this is called Housequake. And this, I remember when I heard, which would have been after hearing this, consciously hearing, like James Brown and like Sex Machine, and thinking, right, that's what Housequake is. That they're absolutely almost kind of kissing cousins. That it's just, we've got a beat and we're just going to muck about until we finish, and then we're going to go home.
Yeah, it's proper funk. It was proper. It had a groove. It was completely different. The horns, everything, it just made it something. It's a record that you put it on and you're going to want to dance to it. I think as we go on and speak about the other records, I think there's different people dancing to different records, if that makes sense. This one was probably, like you said, a James Brown. Going out, we used to always have like a second room that would be a funk room or a hip hop room, you know what I mean? And that's where that record would fit in. So it was that kind of sound. So it's one that you can't help but want to dance to, and over the years he played it, and I'm sure you've seen him live a few times, and whether it was in his sampler set or he played it, everyone knew it was that record. You're getting up and you're going to dance regardless, and
I mean, if you see in the Lovesexy kind of filmed concert, when he does this. And he does some very James Brown moves, does the splits, and then pushes the microphone away, brings it back with the base of the microphone, bounces it off his chest, and it's like, forget it. I mean, it's just this. This was recorded the day after he'd announced the breakup of the Revolution.
Yeah.
So he did that, and then he did this. And the other thing I remember from this. So I was brought up kind of with the big ballad singers like the Barry Manilows and the Barbra Streisand, and my dad was like a Who fan and Beatles fan. So I'd listen to very straight-laced pop, and I'd listen to a lot of Queen and stuff like that. This was, I think, the first time that I encountered swearing on an album that I bought. Right. And I was like, well, hey, now, come on. All right, we're all having a good time. Why do you need to be like that? It was so. But this was going to be a Camille track as well, wasn't it? Because I can't remember. I think Camille was listed as the singer on this.
I think Camille. I think he had. If I'm right, I think he had nine tracks. I think it was a nine track or an 8-track album.
Yeah.
And I think there's 3 or 4 from here that would have been on the Camille. So I think originally he wanted to do the Dream Factory. Yeah. Then he wanted to do Camille, and then he came back and it was like, okay, forget that. I'm doing this Crystal Ball, which is, I don't know what it would have been, like 40 tracks or whatever it was.
And then, of course, years later, he did do Crystal Ball, but it was kind of his
stuff, wasn't it?
Bootlegs.
It was an amalgamation of all these other things.
Yeah. All his bootlegs. I mean, that was, obviously we'll talk about that in another episode, but, that was good because it was hearing, I'd got bootleg cassettes.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, obviously it had just been recorded. It was a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a, and it sounded like it had been recorded through a blanket. So to hear them kind of crisp, but Yeah. I mean, to be fair, with Housequake, I think if you just played the bass drum,
Yeah.
that's all. That was pretty much all you kind of needed.
He knew his way around. I think by then how to program a Lindrum and all the sequel. He kind of mastered all that. So he just
Yeah.
knew how to get that beat. And like I said, as soon as it comes on, you can't help but nod or tap your feet. And it's one of those records, and it's a great place to put that record as well. After something so powerful at the beginning, and then you're kind of getting into it, and then suddenly this almost James Brown-esque kind of sound that you've got. And I like I say, hearing it from the first time, you're like, well, like you said, you've gone from this to this, now you're into this. So amazing. I just want to say, actually, and this is probably a bit controversial. A lot of people always mention this thing about the crystal ball, and I know you're going to probably go on and talk about this. I'm really glad that this version came out.
Yeah.
And whether it was his decision, some people say it wasn't his decision, and he'd kind of had, by now, he just didn't want anything to do with it because he didn't get what he wanted. But I think it was the right move. I don't know if it would have gone down as well, having so many records, so many songs on an a triple album or whatever. I just don't think it would have worked.
No, and I think if you come off, if you think what he'd done before, it was Parade.
Yeah.
Before that, which obviously went with the film Under the Cherry Moon, which wasn't the success that Purple Rain was. So everything was a little bit on the down low. And whilst they were still doing these great live shows, I think that was, I think he was almost trying to prove himself with a triple album.
Yeah.
And I think Warner Brothers, because that's how I believe it was Warner Brothers. It was like, whoa, we ain't doing. And at that time he had a good relationship with Warner Brothers, and I think they said just do a double, and I think we absolutely got the best.
Yeah, I agree.
The best.
I think so. Yeah.
So, and because that's the other thing as well. Obviously, we're talking about the standard edition of Side of the Tides, because if we do the deluxe super, we haven't got time.
No, we'll be here all day.
We'd have to, it's ridiculous. And again, just going back to this absolute change of pace of this into the Ballad of Dorothy Parker.
Yes.
Which is just, I think, is one. It's hard to pick a favourite off the album, but this certainly is up there as one of my favourite songs.
I think this was the first. I think he'd moved into a new studio or a new home.
Yeah,
and this was the first record that he'd recorded, and my understanding is for the person who was the engineer. I think it was Susan Rogers who
it was Susan. Yeah.
And I think they made a mess of it. I think she said it wasn't all set up, and it had this really kind of muddy underwater sound. But that's what makes the record, isn't it?
It's what absolutely works. It was so the guy that installed the mixing desk at Paisley Park. So this was where the beginning of this is a guy called Frank de Medeo, I think his name was. He'd come out from Los Angeles to do it, and Prince just couldn't wait for him to finish it. So he was like, "Listen, I'm just gonna start recording if that's all right." Yeah. And when he did the vocal and listened back, and Susan was like, "God, this all sounds horrible. It sounds like it's underwater, but it just it just works."
Oh, it's there's something about it that makes it sounds different, but it sounds, I think there's almost a bit of a warmth to it because of it, and very organic way it sounds, but then I think the other thing is just the lyrics, is the way he sings and everything. Just it's a dreamy song, funny. And I think this is probably, again, it kind of solidifies this whole thing about him and baths. Do you notice he's always on about having baths?
Yes.
Most of his songs, something that he's got. And again, so that kind of made me, like, it makes me smile every time I listen to that.
Because I love the line. She didn't see the movie because she hadn't read the book first.
Brilliant.
Which I thought was fantastic. I thought that was and he references Joni, who was obviously, he was a big fan of her, and again, a big influence. And it feels an incredibly kind of personal. I never thought okay, this is clearly autobiographical. This is something. I never thought that. It always felt like kind of like a word poem. You know, there's no chorus, there's no traditional structure. You know, it just kind of nicely. Yeah, I mean, like I say, and as you said there, it's got a real kind of warmth to it. And when I hear most of his songs just out in the world, you know, generally I always, you know, most of the time I'm like, oh yes, but I mean, I never hear this out in the world. It's always when I'm playing songs off my phone, and this will come up, and I'm like, yeah, we're good for the next few minutes now.
Yeah.
You know, it is.
It's a lovely song.
It's beautiful.
And it's just the arrangement, everything. It's got these little quirky little sounds in the back that you sometimes hear, which is great. But I think those people who love that kind of that soulful, that jazz sound. So a lot of friends, they kind of touch on Prince and they go, okay, we like some of this stuff, and this is one that they'll go, actually, yeah, that's a great song.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you tend to find that with a lot of Prince. I'm not diehard Prince fans as such, but people who kind of listen to his music in passing, you get different types of people like different stuff. Whereas the ones who really like yourself, who've listened to Prince all the way through, you kind of take a bit of everything and you appreciate all that he's done, and it just shows how versatile he is as a musician. But this one definitely one of those records that it's probably one of the, I would say it's one of the top ones in this album, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Conversely, so the next song is It, which returns to one of Prince's favourite subject matters. Of sex. I much prefer this in the concert movie of Sign of the Times, when he kind of does it. This is inserted into Forever in Your Life.
The Drummer in My Life,
yeah, and this is in there. I much prefer that version of it. It feels a bit kind of almost sterile on the record.
It's again, it's quite sparse in the sound that it has. This beat, isn't it? And then it's his vocal. I tell you what I like about that record. One is his vocals. They're quite strained. If you next time you listen to it, you see he pushes his vocals on that record.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's deliberate or I'm not sure, but you can hear that. But what's nice is it's the end part. So as you go on, there's like a large section where it's just kind of music.
Yeah,
these little squealing sounds that he makes through, which is and that I always find that bit. I don't know why I always like that bit towards.
And he's got a bit of climbing guitar in there as well. Yeah. It is. So, it's a great one of the first ones to be recorded. That was kind of done in the early part of '86. So maybe that was it. Maybe it was just kind of, and obviously all the recordings were for either Dream Factory, Crystal Ball, these other projects that he was looking at doing.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe this was just him kind of finding him. Yeah, where are we now? What are we doing here? And that's where he went with that one. The next one is Starfish and Coffee.
Yes, that one makes me smile. I think it's just as soon as you hear it, is it like a phone ring or something? Is it like a? That's how it starts. It
was like an alarm. It's an alarm
clock. That's
yeah.
As soon as you hear that, it's like, okay, you know what this is, and it kind of makes you. I think the story behind this is he wrote this all based on Susanna Wendy's sister, and I think she had a friend who I'm assuming she was a bit eccentric, possibly. That's what it was.
Yeah, I think she was. This. Yeah, I think she was, and she was called Cynthia Rose as well.
Yeah,
she went to the same school as Susanna and Wendy. Right. Yeah.
But I think she would always talk about this thing. I got starfish and pee-pee. That's what she'd say. So obviously, I think Prince had said to Susanna, okay, tell me the story about this girl again, and she wrote it all down, and then he goes, okay, can I change this the pee-pee bit to coffee? And she's like, of course, I don't. You think so? He went away, and that evening he come back, and there's this song that he's got, which is amazing. And you're like, and I think I can remember hearing Susanna talk about this, and she was saying, you know, that day he wrote it, it's come back, and there's this song, and it's like amazing, and it's an amazing song. It's one of those kind of sing-along records that you kind of like hum to yourself, just listening to it makes you smile. It's just a nice, friendly record.
Yeah, it's almost kind of childlike in a way, which I think fits with kind of Cynthia. So that's basically why Susanna's got its co-writing credits apparently on that, because she provided the story. Did you ever see, this was later on in his career?
Yeah.
The Muppets.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. Just the characters as he went through them, you could see them, and then made a Muppet version of them. So there's Kevin, and you're like, okay, and then there was him in the back there, and you just thought, wow. I thought that was brilliant.
It was just incredible, because it must have been like, right, what Prince song can we do? Because I think at that point it'd become a Jehovah's Witness, so the swearing and the sexy stuff was all, you know, pretty much out. So it was like, what song can we do that will work for the Muppets audience? You know, and it's this. I mean, it's absolutely that. You know, at no point was he kind of going, yeah, we should do, you know, Hot Thing or something. No, let's
do this one.
Stick it Starfish and Coffee. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that was brilliant. I really enjoyed them. But they just slightly different arrangement as well, which is good.
Yeah, it was. The next track on the album again is another written by a woman called Carol Davis, and Prince had met her in I think 1984, and indeed she's done it herself on one of her albums. They tried to buy it off her. And she said, no, I'm all right, thanks. I'll just keep taking the money. And this is Slow Love.
Slow Love is Prince is a master at ballads. Yeah. And this one sometimes gets overlooked. I'm going to say this is one of my favorite ballads. I heard the whole story about the Carol Davis thing, and I think recently she's come out and actually saying now that actually she wrote all of it. So the story is that she's trying to say I actually wrote all of it, and it wasn't a co-write, but that's how whether he did or not, I don't know. But I've heard her version, and we know his version, and his version with Eric Leeds, Atlanta Bliss. Just the horns alone, it changes the whole dynamics of the record. I mean, it sounds like a record that was made decades ago. It's got this old kind of feel, but a beautiful sound. Something that I think, you know, you could imagine someone's like nan or something listening to it until you obviously go deep into the lyrics. but the musically, you think, okay, this is like a real nice black and white movie, old fashioned sound. But it's beautiful, and I've always put that, and I don't know. I'm sure you do make these slow jam tapes, and this is one that was on my slow jam Prince tapes as well, and rightfully so. It's one of my favorite Prince ballads, and I know he's done loads of them over all the other albums, but Slow Love always comes out.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song. So just to save people kind of going and digging around, so Carol Davis says that she wrote everything. She wrote the lyrics, she wrote the music. Prince recorded it and helped with the bridge and some of the arrangement as well. And that's why it's co-credited as Prince and Carol Davis. But then when they were going to put it on the album, apparently they offered her $25,000 for it. And she was like, no, I'm all right. And then they came back and said, we'll give you, was it 50% of publishing and kind of writing credit money? And again, she was like, yeah, no, I'm all right. You know, I'll just carry on as we are. So, so that's kind of
as I say, I've heard the two, and great writing, but I think Prince has made it a great song.
I mean, his delivery. I'll be honest, I've never heard Carol Davis's version, but his version is beautiful. I think, like you, I always imagine, smoky club, end of the night. It's a small band on stage. Mm-hmm. He's probably sat somewhere rather than stood. Just all of that. Absolutely great.
It's a great song.
Again, like so much of this album, bang, we're off the back of that into a Hot Thing.
Hot Thing. Wow. So earlier on I said there's a type of person who listens to Housequake. They need to leave that room now. Yeah. And this is the other guys that are coming in because they listen to Hot Thing. It's like an electronic dance record to start with. Just that beat, just the way it comes in. And it's just got a different groove, completely different to what we heard in Housequake. But yet it's still got that groove. It still makes you want to dance, still makes you want to go. And it's a great record, Hot Thing.
It's one of those, and again, like we say, it's the memories that you come with it. It always felt like, and I don't mean this in like a sexual way, I mean it in like, it's like a dirty record. Like it, yes, I suppose some of that is the kind of the sexual nature of it, but it always felt like, I don't think he'd been in his bath before doing this. This felt like, but it was just incredible and just kind of.
I think Silent Times, the album, it has to go. You have to talk a little bit about Silent Times, the movie, and when you listen to Hot Thing, and if you've seen the movie, you can visualize what is going on. And it's all those things there. Some of those dance moves he's doing is like, he's obviously telling you what he's thinking. And it's in that record. And you can see, you can hear it. It's just one of those records where it's... When I was younger, people would say, Prince, you know what? He's got some of his music's a bit... This is Prince. When you talk about Prince, this is what you mean by Prince, don't you?
It is. And that's the thing, because it's one of those where obviously he did do metaphor in a lot of his songs, but a lot of the time he didn't bother with metaphor.
No.
Like you say, if you watch Sound of the Times, the concert movie, there's no way him and Kat are just platonic handshake friends.
No.
No, they got kind of quite sweaty and of course, as part of the tour, they were doing that every night.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this is the incredible thing. So the next track, Forever in My Life.
Oh, yes.
This is only the end of the first album that we're at now.
Yeah.
And again, what a way to end it. I think again, I know it's hard with the favourites thing, but I think this is probably my favourite song on the album.
Wow. It is. It's an amazing... I think where he was at the time in terms of his personal life, he's probably kind of comes through in this record.
Yeah.
Based on, the information story that you've heard. What I will say is the album version's great, but once I saw the actual movie, I think that version, it's kind of changes everything. Yeah. And I know, obviously, there's the whole thing about the mistake or whatever happened in the record where it's out of sync or the backing vocals, and that kind of makes that record. And the fact that when he does it live, he kind of gets everyone to do that as well. And I've always listened to the album version. Like I say, once it's in. I'll just carry on letting it play. But there's something about that live version,
right?
It's just amazing. And I think a lot of the stuff with Prince, when he did live stuff, he just did something different. A lot of the Camille records that were live, for me, sounded better live. And I don't know whether it was that whole the slowing down or the speeding up of the voice that he did. You can't do that, can you? So you're actually going to have to sing, and it's Prince singing the way he would sing. And that's what kind of made those records, when he sang them live, sound better for me.
Yeah.
But as a studio album, listening to it, it was still a great way to end that part of the record. And
the thing I can never get over is, how did Susan Rogers keep a job? So she made a mistake on Dorothy Parker.
Yeah.
she made a mistake by playing the wrong interval on the tape of this. It's like, how did you carry on working with him?
I don't know how she managed to get away with it, but I don't know. that is just, to be honest, that's a lot of them were very happy accidents that kind of paid off in.
I think that's probably
ways.
why.
Maybe I think he knew that, and wonderful record.
We begin the second disc with, I think, one of the biggest, or one of his bigger singles anyway, and it's one that people tend to remember, which is "You Got the Look," which was the duet with Sheena Easton, which wasn't supposed to be a duet.
No,
it was supposed she was just going to come in and do a bit of backing vocals on it, and he was like, "No, let's do a little bit more," and then it became this kind of duet piece. And it's also, just having a quick look back through the song titles so far, I think this is the first one of the album where it's a letter for a word.
Oh, as in the U, yeah.
As in the U being "You Got the Look."
Yeah.
So
on the album, yeah.
And obviously, I mean, it was released as a single. And apparently this was written in response to Robert Palmer's "Addicted to Love."
Oh, okay. All right.
So what, it's that incessant kind of beat that goes, a similar kind of dance groove to it.
He had the Camille voice on here, but it wasn't intended for the album, was it?
No.
So he'd done it, and I think he still used the voice. But I'm going to be honest. I think out of all of the records, this is the one that I'm not going to say I didn't like, because I did like the song, but I think when you're younger and you listen to Prince, you like everything, don't you? And
yeah.
You get older and you go back and you listen, and that's all the albums you've got, your favourites, and you have it. And this one's the one for me. And maybe it was the fact that it's probably so commercial. Well, it was commercial, and that probably, I would hear that on Radio 1 or BR&B or whatever it was. That suddenly just go, okay, here's a Prince record, and we're putting this on. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it is. It is one of the. Yeah. It's the big radio, one of the big radio friendly songs, and that's. I'm exactly the same. I like it because it has one of my favorites kind of lyrics. I love it when he brings a bit of humor in. Yeah, there's that. Well, when he brings a bit of humor in, and he starts with "You need a whole hour just to make up your face," and then at the end of the verse he says, "Closing time, ugly lights, everybody's inspected. You are a beauty unaffected. Yeah. Did I say an hour? My face is red. I stand corrected." I mean, it's amazing little, exactly. It's just a nice little bit of humour putting in. This is what I loved about it. But yeah, I'm the same as you. It is that, everyone knows that, and it's like, if you like "You Got the Look," listen to this. Listen to this.
Exactly what it was. Yeah.
Because the track that follows it, I think, is probably is one of the biggest songs for Prince fans. But he's not really known. I think TLC did a cover. So it's "If I Was Your Girlfriend."
Yeah.
I think TLC did a cover of this.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, and was it kind of released as a single? I don't think it was.
I think it was. Yeah, I know. I've got the TLC album. I want to say it's off "Crazy, Sexy, Cool." It might not be.
Yeah,
I think it was the album.
No, but Prince's version, or Camille's version, because again it was Camille doing the vocal here. This was the second single off the album.
Yeah.
Which went worldwide, and of course begins with the kind of noises and the collage and the "look at the bargains over here, ladies," and
the wedding,
and the and which apparently I always thought, he must have recorded them as he was out somewhere, and no,
it's stock sounds.
Yep, just got some sound effects album. So it was like, go on, bang a bell on. And that's what it's just incredible.
Yeah, they just put it all together, and there you go. But what a song! This is, like you said, if the Prince fans all kind of gravitate to this record. my slow jam cassette's got this on there again.
Yeah.
And it has to, but it's his writing. This is where you can really see the intelligence in his writing and how he can, what he's trying to say and what he's trying to do in terms of this record. And different people interpret it different ways, but you have to really go back, listen to it, and understand what he's trying to say. And it's amazing. It's such a, I don't know, it's a record that you just can sit back and you can listen to. Again, for me, the live version, I have to always, and that's again because I think he has to sing it the way he has to sing it, rather than it being all changed and modified with the speeding up. And if you go back to the Sun Tons, and when he sings that, I've always you'd stop to watch that bit there.
That's the thing. So how many times did you see him live?
Oh gosh, at least 20.
That's amazing. I saw him 8 times, which I was, very, very pleased with. And I saw him when he did like the 21 Nights in O2.
I think a lot of mine were, probably about 8 of them were in that. I just kept going back,
And I saw him kind of in the hit and run. So I saw him at the Manchester Academy, and a friend of mine.
One Night Alone.
And
the later ones toward the end.
Yeah. That was the 3 hours. He was on at 8, walked off at 11. But by that time, his hip was a problem, so he didn't do any dancing. He was, and he was with
Third Eye Girl.
Third Eye Girl, who would. So that was his band. So it was just 4 of them on stage, and they were fine. But I'm just thinking of all the time. So the first time I saw him was the Nude tour,
1990.
and then I saw him every tour after that, or most tours after that. But I never saw him do this live. So it was on the Sign of the Times, and I think, does he do it in the? I'm trying to think if he did it in the Love Sexy tour, but he certainly does it in the Sign of the Times tour. Yeah,
he does it in the Sign of the Times, and I think I may have heard him do like a bit of a sampler, but not sing it. Toward the end, I think he had it in one of his samplers, so he did a little bit of that, and then and things. But one of my close friends who I met at, through music, Prince, and were really good friends. I was always envious of him because he's a bit older than me. He's probably similar to you in terms of age. And his first concert was the Parade tour, which was. But then he was like, "Yeah, so I saw him at the Parade tour," and I was like, "Okay, how was that?" And he goes, "It was all right, it was great." And then I go, and it was the following year we went to get tickets for Sign of the Times, but then he cancelled the whole thing, and I was like, "Okay." And he goes, "Not to worry." Got on a plane, he saw him front Paris. And I was like, what? And there's always this bit of envy knowing that this guy's gone out and he's seen this live, because if any concert I want to see, and to be honest, I've been fortunate to have seen him, like I said, many a times, and great concerts. But that was the one. It's always been, for me, I'd love to have seen Sign of the Times. And I know, and we're going to go into some of the other records in a bit, I know for a fact he sang If I Was Your Girlfriend, and all the other things. And and he'll say it's a great concert, I'm sure that in itself, and that's nice. I like to hear those stories of people who managed to see the bit that you want to see.
Yeah, it is. It's good when So I think when I saw him, he did, and at the time, Bambi was one of my favourites from his second album, and I saw him do that live, and I was like, well, I'm good now. Thanks very much, everybody. I can go home happy. But just going back into If I Was Your Girlfriend, what I love about it, I think it's the same as you. Yeah, it's definitely on slow jams. It's the complete. It's like he's taken a love song and almost reversed it. It's such a beautiful kind of thing on its own. Yeah. Really, which just. Just knocks it out of the park for me. I just,
It's. I would say that's probably one of my favourites in terms of what it makes you think, and you just. I think I always listen to it thinking, how have you written this record? How did you come up with the process of writing what you're writing? And that just shows how much of a lyricist he was.
Yeah, they're just incredible. And the cold end of it as well, just the way, I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. And we arrive at Strange Relationship, which
a real record, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And this was quite an early life and was quite a revolution record as well. So Wendy and Lisa did a lot of stuff.
We've heard that now. I'm assuming you got the deluxe and stuff, haven't you?
Yeah.
So we've heard what they kind of had in there and what they took out. And I'll be honest with you, I prefer it as it was.
Yeah. We ended up with the best version.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, without a doubt. And it's a really good. It's one of those kind of relationship songs. And what I found every time I listen to it, I think, oh yeah, that kind of these couples that I know that I'm like, yes, this is you.
Yeah.
You know, this is how you are with one another.
Yeah.
You know, I think that was something that's one of his strengths in his songwriting is he doesn't explicitly write about relatable stuff, but I think there's relatability in so many of his songs.
I think at the time, it was during his time with Susanna, possibly. So maybe it was the relationship, and I think whatever was going on there. With every musician, there's always a song, isn't there? And this one, but it's how you write the song. And again, it's great writing. It's a great song, and I've heard this quite a few times live over the years. I think my favorite would have been, I don't know, the One Night Alone tour. Did you do that one?
I didn't do the One Night Alone. I was gutted to miss that.
I know he did that when we saw him. I think we saw that a few times, and again, and that for me was okay. I haven't heard anything from Silent Times for years, and somebody singing one of the tracks from Silent Times. So that was the nice thing. But it's always a great song, and whenever I hear it, it's a sing-along song as well. You can't.
That's the thing.
Along to it. You don't.
It's quite a happy song in a way.
Yeah, I know. Until you start really delving
exactly. You know, when it starts with that bum to bum to bum, bum, and you start listening to the lyrics, go whoa, this isn't happy.
No,
you know. The next one is I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man.
Wow.
Which was also a single, but the single was what they call a radio edit, which was a really chopped down version. You know, that incredible guitar kind of riff and the jam that he has for the last several minutes of the song.
They took all that, didn't they?
Yeah, took so much of that out, and it just jumps to the end, really.
It's a funny story about this one is because I'd already obviously gone and bought my Sign of the Times on cassette, and then I had a friend who gave me Sign of the Times the movie, and they must have recorded us something like Channel 4 or something.
Yeah.
And when they recorded it, I think when you have the adverts, you try not to get the adverts, so they must have paused, and he must have fallen asleep. So when he did start it up, it started back up on I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man, but he started from the bit where he's doing the the bluesy.
Yeah.
Well, for about a year and a half, 2 years, I was like, why didn't he never sing the whole song? You know. And then one day I saw it on Channel 4. I was like, hold on a minute, the whole song's here. They missed the whole bit, and it was a live version, which was amazing. I think they used the live version as the video or the song for the release. But obviously, me missing the release when it came out, I never, like Rishi Sunak, I didn't have Sky TV, so I couldn't see all these videos. So once it's gone. We're not getting it back. So so it's only when after I saw, I was like, wow. But Silent Times, for me, on the album Silent Times, they Never Take the Place of Your Man. It's like I think he's making a statement to like, listen, I've got all this funk going on, I got this, but listen, Middle America, I still can play the guitar, I still can do this rock ballad kind of thing. And you can see that all those people who probably didn't get that funk sound or didn't get the horns and all this going on, this was like, this is it's still that kind of thing that he was doing when he did Purple Rain, and he could play the guitar. And he always played guitar it was more of a melodic sound. You know how you'd get like a Hendrix, a dirty sound, or all this. This one had this sweet kind of Santana style,
That's
and the
exactly,
solo.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think I think for me that's probably one of the big tunes on the album for me. Just whenever I do, or when I was younger, I'd do someone a tape. You know, I'm gonna get you to like Prince. This was one of the records I put on there.
Really? Because I'm going to be completely honest.
You did the
This was
opposite.
a skipper for me.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. When I
I love
first,
this record.
I know, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
And I think it was the concert movie that got me into it as a
Okay.
song,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed it as a whole performance. But
Yeah.
when and I think to my kind of Prince naive ears, it felt a bit kind of self-indulgent. Here he goes, here we go, you know. and over time, I've realised that it's absolutely not. You know, I've heard him at his indulgent, self-indulgent, and this wasn't it. He was constructed. This was a proper song.
To be honest, if you really listen to it, it sounds like a country record, a country song, the way it's lyrically written.
Yeah.
And for years, people thought it was like a record from the early 80s that he kind of put on the back burner because he thought, I'll get back to it. But then we found out it was 1979.
Yeah.
So, so it was like a really early record that he'd put away, and he'd come back and rearranged it to have this kind of rock kind of sound to it, poppy sound that he put on it. I really enjoy it. I think it's probably the melody, it's probably everything with it that, you know, and even now, but I do prefer the live version.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the kind of difference between so many of the songs, you know, and there's so many of the songs. And like I say, I think it was hearing the live version that made me like the album version.
Right. Okay.
You know, because if I hadn't have done, you know, if I'd not seen the live version, I probably still would have been like, yeah, okay, let's just, I'll, you know, crack on with this one.
Yeah.
The Cross.
Oh.
So, I mean, this was because I think now we think of him as like a spiritual person, and obviously there was moments on other albums where religion had been mentioned, you know, controversy and around the world in a day. There'd always been that, and obviously, you know, like Purple Rain and things. But there was, going back to what I was saying earlier on, of, you know, with the metaphors, there's no metaphor here.
No.
This is all about religion. It's all about Christianity. It's all about his faith and what he feels his faith can do for you, but done in a way that, again, I didn't know their music, but someone was saying it had a real Velvet Underground feel to it, of just that. I mean, it was just that guitar for a long time, and then you get a bit of Sheila E. coming in, and it was Sheila E. You know, on the, you know, she was really the only other musician. Eric Leeds played a saxophone, you know, on a couple of things, but it just, I mean, I'm the biggest heathen going, but I love this song.
Do you? Okay.
Oh.
Wow.
So you're not a fan of it?
I'm going to say I quite opposite that. So this is where I think being young, when I first heard the album, I think that one of the great things about Prince was the whole you know, that kind of dirtiness, that you know, the rude little things that he would do, and you know, you'd be like, okay, I can't believe I'm hearing this, or he's doing this, or we're talking about this, and then he just kind of brings this record out, which is, like you say, it's about Christianity, it's the cross, you know. And I just I just felt it's not one that I enjoyed as a song. I tell you, I enjoyed it musically. And I think it's almost like a song of two halves where he starts off and then suddenly goes into like that. It speeds up if you listen. It starts speeding up a little bit. Yeah. But and the other thing is it's a great one to play. It's only 2 chords, so I can play that on the guitar. So that's good. So that's the bonus.
Perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, I always listen to the whole album back to back, and I think it had a place in the album. For what it was, but it wasn't one of my favorites on the album.
Yeah.
Like I said, when you're young, Prince can't do no wrong when you're young, and everything's great. But as you get older, you look back, and I would say I have all the records on that. That's the one that lyrically I don't get anything from it, and maybe because it sounded so forced as a religious record, do you know? And that's probably what it was for me. But musically, yeah, it's still Prince, and he still rocked the guitar and the rest of it. So yeah. But yeah, that's where I think that one was. I think what made it even worse was when he became Jehovah and he changed the lyrics. Was it the Christ? That made it worse.
He played it. He changed.
He called it the Christ.
Though, yeah, but sometimes he would do it because Jehovah's Witnesses believe that Jesus wasn't crucified on the cross; he was crucified on a stauros, I think it's called. Yeah. It's like a single stake rather than a. So he would sometimes call it stauros, which again, there are times. I mean, the man was
leave it at the set.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The man was a genius, but every now and again he would have a right tin ear for a lyric and go, "What? I know what you're trying to do, but like you say, either don't sing it or just leave it with the original. The original lyrics."
Yeah.
And the penultimate song on the album, considering this guy was putting together a triple album, it feels like an odd choice to put in a live track as the penultimate song. So it's going to be a beautiful night live.
I believe this weren't meant to be the penultimate. I think it was meant to be the other way around. This was meant to be the last record.
Right, okay.
My understanding is that this was, I think they played around with the whole thing. Was this going to be the last record or the last record? And you're right, it's a live record, 9 minutes. It's just 9 minutes of funk, isn't it? It's over the years, I think at the time, maybe it was the whole, this after show thing that he was famous for.
Yeah.
I think it was starting to really take off, but towards this time, and then with the Love Sexy and the rest of it, and it was just and now when you listen to it, it's like a peek into what an after show is like, and he's putting a record up because you just go off on a tangent and he'd play for 10-15 minutes and it'd just be pure music, and that's what it was. If you listen to the lyrics, very much lyrics in there.
No,
where he's in, it's just going to be a beautiful night. And I think then there's the famous Sheila E. poem, isn't it?
What's the
Table and the Chair.
Is it the
Table and the Chair or Table to the Chair?
Yeah. Trans-Mississippi rap is what it was referred to, because I think she did it over the phone from a hotel that was by the Mississippi or something like that, or near the like a corner of the Mississippi or something like that. That's how it became the Trans-Mississippi rap. Jill Jones did some vocals for it as well.
Right. I think it was Edward Lear who did it was the Edward Lear poem that she took, and she'd kind of But like I say, whenever I think of my friend Tim, and he was front row while she was doing this, and you can imagine what he was saying. So there you go.
That's amazing.
There you go. Yeah.
It is. It's just, like you say, it's 9 minutes. It doesn't feel like 9 minutes. No. He does the kind of breakdown bit at the end, which is where everyone just gets to play what they like, supposedly to end the song. And again, I love that transition. And this is why I'm guessing it wasn't the last track of the album. Mm-hmm. Because as the crowd fades,
he goes into the
first few notes of a door come in, which I think this is probably my favourite love song of
And this is where we both have to agree in terms of this. I was talking about my slow jam cassette. This is the one that it's the of all the ballads Prince has done, this sits at the top for me.
Yeah, I mean, it just I mean, it's so, it's just so beautiful as a, you know, and I think it's because there wasn't that edge of sex that was in so much of his other, you know, this was so, because this is the one that always reminds me of Susanna.
Okay.
You know, so the how I understood the relationship between him and Susanna was that she was his great love, and everyone that kind of was before and after, and I'm including kind of Maite and that, were just didn't match. Susanna was the person. If he was going to be with anyone for the rest of his life, it would have been Susanna. And I always think of her when I think of this, and again, it creates that beautiful ending to the, you know,
it was a correct
I am with you, you are with me.
That's it.
You know, and it
is a lovely way to end a great album. And I think even just the way it starts with the falsetto and the high notes, and then you've got that same Prince humor in them, and maybe not the right, that, you know. So you got all of that in there, but ultimately it's just a beautiful record, beautiful song, and it's sung so well. It's just this demonstrates everything about Prince. You know, this is like this is Prince. You know, when you say what is Prince, it's this song.
Yeah, it is. And you're so right. If this had been the penultimate song on the album, It's Gonna Be a Beautiful Night would have almost felt like a bonus track. Would have almost felt like, oh, they just banged this on at the end.
Yeah, I think it was the correct choice, just to finish it. And it also means you need to listen to the album right to the end, because, you know, it just caps off everything. That's Silent Times, and as I say, I've been listening to it over the last week, and I haven't skipped it. It's brought back every kind of memory I had, and it's made me understand and kind of realize how much I miss his music.
Yeah,
and that's the big one. And I think I kind of stopped listening to Prince a little bit, and that was because after sometimes after all these things, there was this buzz knowing that you're gonna hear Prince or maybe see him again, and I'd go and see other bands, and, you know, I enjoy music, but in the back of my mind I always thought, you know what, he'll come around again in a few years and we'll see him, and we'll relive that excitement, that buzz. And I think once he passed away, I think that stopped for me musically, and I stopped listening to a lot of his stuff. And to be honest, I don't really listen to much of the newer things, but digging this one back just makes me realize how great. And you know what, it's, for many people like yourself, like me, it was a soundtrack to our life, you know. And that's one thing you can't take away from Prince. He's somehow with one of his albums, he's managed to, you know, play a soundtrack for you, and that's the amazing thing. And that's what Silent Times was for me, soundtrack to my life.